Good evening, everyone. My name is Gerry Martin. Generally follows after an introduction like that. Um, I'm here to talk about an idea that sort of came to to us, and a few years ago, based on a lot of things that we were doing. My my experience over the last decade, or I dare say two, has been quite pendulous. I've done a bunch of very different things. I've worked cleaning crocodile poo from crocodile pens. I've worked with children. I've worked with snakes. I've worked with television. And one of the most dangerous things that I have worked with has been a television producer who, well, yeah, he was dangerous. But we one thing that has occurred to me is that a lot of what we do, a lot of what we decide to do, ends up being because of some sort of emotional decision. And we talk about conservation, we talk about so many things that need to be done. Most often, these things that need to be done end up being things that we decide that we want to do. That is conservation's biggest enemy. And in my view, as long as we think of conservation as some altruistic decision that we can make, whether we want to stand on a noble platform or not, and whether we want to make a difference and whether we want to feel good about ourselves or not, is where the biggest problem that conservation is facing is today. Is there are all the other very in-your-face, matter-of-fact things that, there's population, there's poverty, there's all these other things that do count. The reason these things aren't changing is because we decide that CSR or charity or all these other things that make us good people is what conservation needs. Conservation is something that we need. So I've thrown together some pictures, I guess just to set a mood. This is what I do today. A friend of mine gave me this logo as a birthday present, and it's stuck since then. The Gerry Martin Project is not an NGO. We're for profit. We need to sustain ourselves, and we have not taken a single grant to date. We'll talk about some of the work that we've done. Well, I'll talk about some of the work that we've done in a while. But we've always, whenever we do a lot of work with children, we talk about conservation and we say, what should we save? And invariably you hear the textbook, the web of life. Yes, there's all these wonderful animals. There are tremendously gorgeous ecosystems. These are the places we work in. This is actually our office. Well, right outside our office, so it's boo to you. We do need to save these things. People talk about, water, resources, and then there's the 3 R's of reuse, recycle, and reduce. I never get all of them in order. But there are all these things that people talk about, what we need to save. These gorgeous ecosystems, these critically endangered spaces, the Western Ghats, biodiversity hotspots. There are all these terms all over the planet. And they succeed so well, like this animal, succeeds so well at generating billions and billions of dollars in support. A fraction of that money has won wars, a fraction of that money has changed politics, a fraction of that money has changed geographies and countries. A fraction of that money has brought countries into existence. Why is it that all this is not working? How come an animal that is worth so much money, an animal that is worth so much generatability, if that is even a word, probably is, but how come it's not working? We felt really bad about 1,411 tigers left, and we thought, oh my God, what are we going to do? We've got, and they did this calculation about, so many tigers die every day, and hence we have so many days left, but it's been a long time since, and we still have now more tigers. So then now we feel good, because those billions of dollars have taken that number of 1,411 tigers to 1,700 and something tigers, right? Is it worth it? Is it worth that issue? Where are the tigers anyway? They're just in glorified zoos. They're inside fenced places. The moment they come out, we call it conflict. When it's inside a national park or a tiger reserve, it's conservation. If they leave that boundary, it's conflict. And then we say, what do we do now? Okay, people are killing tigers, tigers are killing people. It's just not working. We can't work at this because we're forgetting a very valuable point in this. We have over 1 billion people in this country. Our land mass isn't growing. Our needs are growing. Our numbers are growing, but the resources that this land has and the space that we have is not growing. So we've actually got probably, and you know what, I'm probably going to get lynched on my way home today, we've probably got too many tigers in India today. And that's because if someone has a farm next to a protected area, next to a tiger reserve, and he decides, you know what, I'm done with agriculture. I'm not going to plow my fields today. I'll let the forest come back. He stands a very good chance of losing his land. Such is the dichotomy that we exist in today. We have this really dichotomous approach to conservation. So I've done a lot of work with communities, with organizations, with authorities around the country. And one of the biggest problems that we're facing today is this rift between wildlife and humans. And either it's the urban, very media-driven view of we're saving something, or it's a very remote rural view of what do we do? You know, my crops are all getting destroyed by elephants, boars. I can't go out at night because there's probably a leopard that's going to take me, or these crocodiles are eating all my fish. All these there are these very different views. And unfortunately, the views that are winning are the ones that are very removed. They're our views from urban India. So we decided that we want to tell the Soligas in the BRT Tiger Reserve that, you know what, you've lived in this forest for thousands of years. You haven't destroyed your forest. You've not destroyed all your tigers. You've still got a really healthy, one of the best tiger densities in the country. All right? We've just destroyed everything, and we don't have any water left, and we have no tigers, and we've barely got sparrows. But we're coming in here because these tigers now belong to us, and we're taking you out of the forest. How does that make sense? But a fantastic business model would be if those Soligas stayed inside the forest and they ran their own ecotourism. The one that the forest department is now running and charging copious amounts of money for a van ride. Can you imagine a Soliga family taking people into the forest saying, you know what, I'll show you tigers, we'll do it on foot. You won't have someone in the back playing music. You won't have people screaming or anything. We'll go see a tiger. I'll take you close to elephants. We'll see where that hornbill is nested. And you know what, it'll cost you $50. That Soliga suddenly has value. It's not just about his making money. It's us going to him and saying, thank you for not killing all the tigers. Thank you for not destroying all the forests. You need to be rewarded, and here is this reward. This is all we have. We've got money. And that's the paradigm shift that is needed for conservation to actually succeed. Conservation is not a cause. Conservation is something that everyone needs, like medicine or education. If you can corporatize those things, you can corporatize conservation. So that's actually not supposed to happen. Anyway. So during these things, what we're doing here is actually training forest department staff in dealing with snake conflict. And snakebite is one of our big crusades at the moment. And I use crusades loosely because we don't actually think it's a cause, but we're really upset. 50,000 people die every year from snakebite. A number far greater than that suffer a permanent loss of life function. They lose a limb, they have kidney trouble, they go through socioeconomic issues, they take loans to save themselves. It's terrible. And we're upset because no one's doing anything about it. And the reasons no one's doing anything about it is similar to the reasons why Soligas can be moved out of forests. They're poor. And they don't count. Poor people, rich people don't get bitten by snakes, because if you have a wallet in your pocket, that's it. I mean, you don't need a Garuda Rekha or anything. You just need to be rich, and you're safe from snakes. It's something that is invariable. Not a single rich person who doesn't try to catch a snake gets bitten. And what we did, we had to go around the country and figure out where there was problems with snakes. We had to go and find out where there were the biggest problems, what snakes there were, what venom they had. And that's an expensive proposition. It really is. So we figured there's no way of doing this but to actually go out and do that. And so we put the word out and we said we're going to go out on all these expeditions. And we're opening them up. These are not exclusive things. Anyone who can walk through really tough terrain, who can be out in the forest, who can work in that kind of a space, is willing to is free to come with us, but you have to pay us. And they paid us 1 lakh each. It's 100,000 rupees each to come on this thing and help us find snakes to collect venom from. And they lived like that. And there was value in that. And it's interesting that people went back with this experience that and some of these people have been on safaris, have been to different other places, a whole bunch of tourist things where they go back with phenomenal photographs, and it costs them the same amount of money, and they don't have to work, they get pampered. We crack the whip, we say this has to be done, sorry you can't come out today because you're not fit enough, all those kind of things. They have to conform to what we have to do. The purpose that we're there is not to please them. The purpose that we're there is to actually find that venom that is a problem to these 50,000 people in this country. And they're willing to pay for it. So this is some of the stuff that they did. We collected venom. We're still working on it. We're a long way off from actually finding a cure, but the team has grown and the collaborators are immense. And so far we have not, even for all this work, had to take a single paisa of a grant. It's all been just money that we've generated. This work is something that we're truly excited about. So we did that. We're still continuing with the snakebite work and everything. The inroads into a community are best met through their children. And what we do now is we work with rural schools. We work with rural schools, and it's interesting that's coming from the sound box, but anyway. We work with rural schools, helping with curriculum, teacher training, and infrastructure. And we bring in this money. So we're doing work that other NGOs do. The only difference is we're not doing it on a large scale. We're not doing 200,000 schools. We're not doing 5 states. We decided that the best way to do this and to have really quality and actual impact is to dig our heels into 1 or 2 places and sit there for as long as it takes to effect that change. And that change hopefully will come in the next few years. But what we do with these schools is, along with the teacher training and curriculum development, we bring in people, we bring in folks like, well, that's a happy child, just to do the happy stuff. But we bring in people like these. We've set up biogas plants for their midday meals. We've set up carpentry sheds so they can make their own furniture. One group came over to our field station and helped us build our workspace for all the research and conservation work that we want to do. And the money that they raised, the model that we follow is we handhold them through the year of fundraising. So these kids go out and they do all kinds of events. They do work summer jobs. One of them sold her mother's some expensive dress, but they make their own money, and most of the time. And then they come down, and a lot of that revenue goes into actually working on the project at hand. And what we're very proud of is to be able to confidently say that we take even less money off the top than many NGOs do, because it's enough. And the big difference between it being a business, where it's, I'm not supposed to use names, but anyway, being a business that is a profit maximization business that says we will cut any corners to make as much money as possible, to a business that says this is the scale that we're going to operate at, and this is what's enough. We by no means are starving, and we have enough money, and from the beginning, from our inception, we've been able to put in at least 40%, and 40% of our revenue has been the least amount that we've ever put into an actual conservation or social change project. And we also pay our taxes. That's the kind of change that India could have. At our field station here, the most exciting project is one where we're trying to work with the entire community. This community owns about 5,000 or 6,000 acres of forest. And the reason it's forest is because they couldn't cultivate it because of the amount of wildlife there. The conflict was just too much, so most of them left, found jobs in other places, and it's just there. And they're selling off this property now. They're selling it off to large rubber plantations, to hospitality, corporates. Many of them who've sold land are now working for the people who they sold the land to. And there is no dignity in that. There's also no economic justice in that. What we are trying to get them to do is to figure out, as a community, an entire ecotourism project where everyone will be rostered. There will be guides who we will train, who will be rostered. There will be drivers who we will again train as to how they drive, because they drive kind of differently from how tourists appreciate. There will be homestays that we will have developed, and all these things will come together, and they will all roster, and they will all gain from these burdens that are these forests that they own, where there are 3 species of hornbills, where there are pangolins, where you can see 10 slender, small, very cute primate in a night, where there are the occasional tiger, the occasional elephant, lots of wild dog, lots of otter, and things and birds that people are willing to pay copious amounts of money to come and see. What we are not doing is starting our own resort and giving a few people some jobs. That's not ecotourism. Ecotourism is not least impact. Ecotourism is tourism that makes things better. You don't build a massive monolithic hotel and say, don't wash your towels today if you can avoid it. That's not ecotourism. Ecotourism is making a very strong stance and saying, you know what, if you come here, you will leave this place having left it better, not damaging it the least. And that's what we work on as much as possible. So this is, and we've used a lot of foreign people and who come in because, well, they pay more. But we also work with Indians. This was a keyhole garden that was made by a few kids from the British school in Delhi. They also raised a whole bunch of funds and have given laptops and a whole bunch of stationery and stuff to the school, and that just goes directly to the school. But they came down to this place, enjoyed some of this is right at the edge of the Pench Tiger Reserve in Madhya Pradesh, enjoyed some of the ecological wonders there, worked with the kids, got dirty, and went back. And that's what it should be. You come there, you do something that makes it better. And hopefully, down the line, we'll be able to expand, at least in effect, if not in scale, but in fact, to be able to create a model that's replicable all over the place. We're getting there. We're able to at least have our line items of what needs to be addressed and how to address it. As you can imagine, this is very different and is not always welcomed, because it means that a lot of people have to stop making a lot of money, and a lot of that money has to be directed to the people who actually matter at the grassroots level. Thank you.